If we stand together, we'll never fall.
Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Today is Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. And this is episode number 397 of a show that provides insight and tools to build the life and homestead of our dreams. The title of today's show is Sturgeon Supermoon, and this is a follow-up episode to yesterday's episode titled, What is a Supermoon? And this content comes to you from the Old Farmer's Almanac, and I will link to all of this in the show notes. But just so you know what we're getting into today, we are going to talk about the full sturgeon supermoon. We're going to talk about why it's called the Sturgeon Moon. We're going to talk about what a sturgeon is, alternative August moon names. We'll take a look at moon phases for August 2022. And then I will also link to and discuss a video titled The August Full Sturgeon Moon, and it's an Old Farmer's Almanac video. We'll also take a look at the best days in August 2022. And lastly, we will close out the episode with some moon folklore, and that will dovetail in with a conversation that I had with Cody, our tenant farmer here at York Meadow Farm this morning. So without further ado, let's get right into it, guys, shall we? Now, like I said, this article, I'm just going to read it. It is titled Sturgeon Moon, Full Moon in August 2022. It was published on August 5th, 2022. And like I said, this is from Farmer's Almanac, the Old Farmer's Almanac, which you can find at almanac.com. So let's get right into it. Catch the full sturgeon supermoon. August's full sturgeon moon reaches its peak tomorrow, Thursday, August 11th, 2022. It will be the last supermoon of the year. Learn when to look for it and why August's full moon got such a peculiar name. So when to see the full moon in August 2022. Now, August's full moon will appear on the night of Thursday, August 11th, reaching peak illumination at 9:36 Eastern Time. On either of these nights, look toward the southeast after sunset to catch a glimpse of the sturgeon moon rising. And there's a link to a moonrise and moonset calendar to see precisely when the sturgeon moon will be visible in your area. Now, summer's last supermoon. The sturgeon moon rounds out this year's parade of 4 supermoons, which started in May. Now, supermoons are commonly defined as full moons that occur while the moon is at its nearest point to Earth. Because its orbit is not a perfect circle, the moon's distance from Earth changes throughout the month. Now, supermoons are ever so slightly closer to Earth than the average full moon, which technically makes them extra large and bright from Earth's perspective. And there's another link in this article where you can read more about this year's supermoons here, and that is likely the article that was covered in yesterday's episode. So I would encourage you to check that out, and that was episode number 396 called What is a Supermoon, which will be linked to in the show notes as well. So why is it called the Sturgeon Moon? The full moon names used by the Old Farmer's Almanac come from a number of places, including Native American, Colonial American, and European sources. Traditionally, each full moon name was applied to the entire lunar month in which it occurred, not solely to the full moon. The Sturgeon Moon. August's full moon was traditionally called the Sturgeon Moon because the giant sturgeon of the Great Lakes and Lake Champlain were most readily caught during this part of summer. So what is a sturgeon? These prehistoric looking fish have been traced back to around 136 million years ago, and many people call them living fossils. Females require around 20 years to start reproducing, and they can only reproduce every 4 years. However, they can live up to 150 years. Today, there are about 29 species worldwide, including the lake sturgeon found in the Great Lakes. They have evolved in size from the size of a bass to monster sturgeon as big as a Volkswagen, or perhaps as big as a Mini, for those of you out there who have a Mini. Shout out to Wayne. The lake sturgeon is quite rare today due to intense overfishing in the 19th century, pollution, and damage to their habitat. And in this article, there is a picture of a sturgeon and a caption that reads, "The word sturgeon means the stirrer," which is what this giant fish does when it is looking for food. It stirs up the mud and silt on river and lake bottoms. Notice the pointed snout and whisker-like tactile organs near the mouth. And apparently this photo is from the Tennessee Aquarium. Now I'm going to do my best to describe the looks and appearance of this fish. In my opinion, a sturgeon looks like a hybrid between a catfish and a shark. And a dinosaur, like a stegosaurus, with the spines up and down its spine. Very interesting looking fish. So definitely check out the show notes to get a link or follow the link to this article so you can check this photo out, or just use your search engine of choice. I will link to mine in the show notes as well. Pre-search and search for sturgeon and go down some wormholes about the history of this beautiful animal and check it out. Let's continue with the article. Alternative August moon names. Flying up moon is a Cree term describing the time when young birds are finally ready to take the leap and learn to fly. Corn moon by the Algonquin and Ojibwe tribes, harvest moon by the Dakota, and ricing moon by the Anishinaabe signify that this is the time of year to gather maturing crops. Along the same vein, the Assiniboine people named this period Black Cherries Moon, when referring to when choke cherries become ripe. The Tlingit people of the Pacific Northwest traditionally called this time of year, or this time of season, the Mountain Shadows Moon. And there's another link embedded within this article where you can see all full moon names and their meanings. Now the moon phases for August 2022. You can see moon phase dates and times below, and there's a image indicating all moon phases, which I will do my best to explain. And please note that in this image, all dates and times are in Eastern time. There's also a link to a moon phase calendar that you can utilize for your time zone. So again, check the show notes for links to this article so you can find links embedded within it and find all of this information to utilize at your leisure. Now the moon phases for August 2022. First quarter was August 5th at 7:07 a.m. The full moon is August 11th at 9:36 p.m. and that's what we're talking about right now, the Sturgeon Moon tomorrow night. The last quarter is August 19th at 12:36 a.m. and the new moon is on August 27th at 4:16 a.m. And for your next full moon, there is another link to a full moon dates chart. Now there is a full moon, a full Sturgeon Moon video, and let's go ahead and check this out. It's a 1-minute video, so let's go ahead and I'll just play it for you. I'll unmute my computer and turn down my that's here's something else. Real quick side note. I enjoy listening to music like this in the mornings while I journal, gather my thoughts, oftentimes for the show. But let's take a look at this video and have a listen of the full Sturgeon Moon.
Hi, I'm Amy with the Old Farmer's Almanac. August's full moon is known as the full Sturgeon Moon because Native American tribes knew that the sturgeon in the Great Lakes and in Lake Champlain were most readily caught during the full moon. And now a question for the old farmer. Why can you sometimes see the moon during the day, especially in the summertime? Whenever we see the moon, what we are actually seeing is sunlight that is illuminating its surface. In the summer, better weather conditions and more outdoor activity increase the probability of seeing the moon during the daytime. It looks more dim and faint because your eye is comparing it with direct sunlight, not a nighttime sky. The moon is never visible during the day around the times of the new and full moon. You will only see a crescent or gibbous shape on a clear day. Try to position yourself in the shade so as not to be blinded by the sun. To see your moon phase calendar and to learn even more about the moon, visit us at almanac.com.
Okay, so there you have it. Like I said, links to what she spoke about, links are all embedded within this article, and this article will be linked to in the show notes. So there's another chart here which lists the best days for activities according to the moon's sign and phase in August. For example, cutting hay is best done on the 15th and 16th of August. Setting eggs is best done from the 10th through the 12th, and on the 19th and the 20th. And fishing is best performed from the 1st through the 11th and from the 27th through the 31st. And there is another link here for best days for more activities. So check that out. Now, excuse me, finally, to close out the article, let's talk about some moon folklore, which will segue into some of the discussion that I had with Cody, our tenant farmer, this morning here at the barn. Now, some moon folklore is clothes washed for the first time in the full moon will not last long. If you glimpse the new moon over your right shoulder, you will have good luck. To have a project prosper, start it during the new moon. And babies born a day after the full moon will enjoy success and endurance. And then you can share your thoughts about this month's moon below with an opportunity to comment and add comments and such. Now, why does this moon folklore lead to or get me thinking about this discussion with Cody? It's I don't know, but honestly, it's not so much the folklore part, but it's the reading of this article. It's the idea and the thought of being tuned into nature, being more mindful of the cycles that we live by, in this case, lunar cycles. And basically the encounter, I see Cody regularly. I mean, like I said, he is our tenant farmer. I'm going to go ahead and pour some coffee here while we speak. He is our tenant farmer, and I see him regularly. So having conversations with him is not out of the ordinary, but generally it's not something that happens first thing in the morning. It just so happened that we crossed paths because in the mornings I'm in my office over here doing things, getting ready for the work day, and he's over in his office basically, and bouncing between there and the barn, getting ready for his day, which is generally spent up front in the market garden. So I was basically rinsing out my French press and walked out to the porch and threw it, through the water and tea blend into the grass. And I saw him unloading his truck from the farmer's market last night up at Tremont. And, if you guys are interested in seeing some links to the different markets and learning about our tenant farmer program and other things that are going on here at York Meadow Farm, I'll link to that in the show notes as well. And I would also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter so you can keep up to date on a monthly basis with what's going on with the tenant farmer program and everything else, including but not limited to our online store, which is being launched next month. But anyways, more on that later. Back to the conversation with Cody. I walked up to him and asked him how the market went last night, and we joked a little bit back and forth. Got some inside jokes, and the market was slow. We're getting to a point now and where there's kind of a summertime lull, that occurs oftentimes at markets. It's hot. People are less interested in buying produce, and they're more interested in buying a $5 lemonade in a mason jar from, whoever's selling them over there, and just walking around and taking in the experience. They're not getting excited about the new potatoes that are just harvested, or these French onions that he's got. No. So we ended up having this discussion about just kind of the overall disappointment in where we are at culturally and societally. And this also dovetails into the book that I'm reading, Ready Farmer 1, which is sitting here on the coffee table and also just on my mind, because one statistic that I recently read in there is that only 12% of adults do their shopping at farmers markets, or some of their shopping. And there's a number of statistics in there that make me realize that, if you're not doing things online, which we already are with our sauerkrauts selling through or in conjunction with another farmer who serves as an aggregate of multiple vendors selling online and then selling, delivering the product at 4 different drop points throughout Northeast Ohio. And we've been doing that basically since COVID started. That's when they started. And they've been able to eliminate themselves from the market and are basically a prime example of, a prime representation of one of the many examples of farmers who have done exactly that, removed themselves from the farmer's market to go solely online. And this is Yellow House Cheese here in Seville, Ohio, here in Medina County. And I'll see if I can link to them as well in the show notes, because they are worth checking out. They're a great family farm who, supports us and so many other vendors, including Cody as well. So anyways, back to our conversation. There was just this conversation about the how difficult it is and how disappointing it is that people aren't interested in fresh produce as much as they are interested in sugary drinks and cake pops. and I I laughed because, in a sad kind of agreement, because that is the case. We've kind of been poisoned by the way in which we live. And I pointed out that, a lot of this poisoning and the loss of our culture and the destruction of the food system sort of came about the same time that credit cards did, with the implementation of the grocery store as we know it today. And there was somewhere along the lines in the past where I heard that grocer, the term grocer, was actually used and was something that was illegal. It was not good practice to resell goods from others. It was. But anyways, I digress. And I pointed out to him, I was like, I don't think you get it though, man. Like, just over 10 years ago, like, I were these people that we're talking about right now. I was 100 pounds heavier. I was smoking a carton a week. I was drinking excessively. Breakfast pizza in the mornings. Just junk all day. Booze at night. Chain smoking on the road, baby. And when I wasn't on the road, I was still chain smoking, always looking for that opportunity to take a break. Go have a talk. And it's easy to get stuck in those patterns of behavior. What's not easy is, changing. Except when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And the reality is, most people aren't sick and tired of being sick and tired. We even got to a point in the discussion where, he mentioned that it was kind of a thought that disturbed him somewhat, but sometimes he thinks about what it would be like if there was an actual collapse of the food system. Like a real, true collapse. And I joked at that point and said, yeah, then everyone's true colors would shine. We all are complaining about the supply chain issues, but at the end of the day, we can go to the store and buy our Cheerios. We can go get gas, even though it's $5 in Biden's America. Yeah, all right, lumber is expensive and sometimes we can't get the plywood when we need it or whatever, but it comes in sooner than later. Same thing with shingles or whatever the case may be. Yeah, maybe there's some supply chain issues, but it's still getting here. There's maybe just some delays and some fear about what's coming up. But at the end of the day, we don't really know what supply chain issues are because we haven't really experienced them. And certainly not with the food supply. We don't know what is going to happen when something like that does. But I can tell you it's not going to be good. Nevertheless, there was some dialogue about that as well. And just some, like I said, some overall disappointment in where we are. And one of the reasons why I appreciate these conversations with him is that, and just basically his presence in my life is because he is one of the most authentic people that I've ever really known. He lives his own way and always has, and as far as I can tell, always will. there are not many people like him. And the one way I can describe him is authentic. And I very much appreciate that. And I very much appreciate the perspective that I gain when I have these types of conversations with him. And I hope that sharing some of that in conjunction with an article on the August supermoon provides some value to your day and your life as well. So guys, if you like what you hear on the show, what I would encourage you to do is check out the show notes and learn where you can connect with us on social media. We are predominantly on Telegram, but there's also a MeWe group. We're on Twitter and Float. And besides Telegram, we're also very active on Facebook. We're becoming increasingly active on Facebook. And you can find all of this just by searching for All Around Growth on any of those platforms: Telegram, MeWe, Twitter, Float, and Facebook. There's also a link to all past episodes in the show notes. And one of the things that I need to update in the show notes is I have been encouraging people to leave a rating and review in the Apple Podcast app, because historically that has been the podcast player of choice, according to the statistics that I have. Now, I was looking at these. I don't really look at the statistics that often, okay? Or at least I don't examine them that frequently, because I'm not in this for numbers. I'm not in it for, I do this because I enjoy the interactions that I have with you. I do this because it helps provide structure to my life, and I value the relationships that we are cultivating as we are co-creating this life together. So that's in large part why I do it. But in looking at some of these statistics recently, I learned that over the past, I'd have to look at this again, but over the past month or so, I'm going to do a little deeper dive into this at some point. I've had more plays from an unknown podcast player. And I have a sneaking suspicion that unknown podcast player is Fountain. Now, Fountain is an app that I am not all that familiar with. It's one that people in the All Around Growth community on Telegram can tell you all about. So check it out, t.me/allaroundgrowth to learn more. But I will link to the Fountain app in the show notes as well. And hopefully, I will take some steps to learn more about that, because there are some interesting features in this app that allows the user to easily interface with the Lightning Network and utilize Satoshis, which are fractional units of Bitcoin, to tip or share and do cool things with, just like you would any type of fiat currency or likes on social media. So this is something you can listen to the All Around Growth podcast through Fountain. I've claimed it on there, and I get some notifications every once in a while when people send me some Satoshis. But admittedly, I haven't put the time, effort, and energy into fully learn how to use it, other than claim it with some encouragement by both Brian's Brian Norton and Brian Alexkovich from the Lots Project, Brian Norton from Food Forest Farms to do that. So, thanks guys for helping me, or helping to encourage me to do this. And maybe, they don't have to encourage me to learn more about this, because the tools are there and I know where to go to learn more. Lightning for Liberty group on Telegram, and there's so much more. There's a whole community of people that are into the Fountain app. So if that kind of thing sounds interesting to you in terms of a new podcast player that works in conjunction with Bitcoin, then definitely check out Fountain FM or the Fountain app. And like I said, I'll link to that in the show notes. If you have any questions or feedback for me directly, but don't wish to interact with anyone or on the Telegram app, you are welcome to send me an email at allaroundgrowth@gmail. allaroundgrowth@gmail.com. And with that, guys, that is it for today's episode. Check out the show notes for links on everything we discussed today, and I look forward to catching you on another show tomorrow. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.
What can I do? The needs are many and answers a few. People turn away and I wonder why. If I can help somebody, then I want to try. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love, and truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. I'm an odd fellow. Whoa, whoa. I'm an odd fellow. If we stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference and answer the call. You know the times are wasting every day, and we can help somebody along the way. People may think that it's odd that I believe